Hello, everybody, and welcome. I am Aurora. This is Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans, April 19th, 2022 already. I'm just going to mute people so that a recording is easier on the audio levels here. And what is going on today? It is, just getting my lesson correct over here, lesson 10 of level 1. Oh, Melissa, so great to see you. She says, back from an adventure. I'm happy that you had an adventure. Interested to hear all about how your life journey is going. And yes, there's always time to catch up. Everything is archived. So yeah, I'm so pleased and happy for everybody who's able to be here in person and while this is live. And if not, no worries at all. You catch the telepathic downloads in your quantum inbox. Don't worry. And everything gets archived physically on YouTube so that you can catch up with it also. I mentioned in the email that I might be having an internet outage today. I actually am, but what I decided to do is use my phone for the broadcaster hotspot because I was going over my lecture notes and I'm like, this is so topical. This is so relevant. We have to do this. So we're going to keep up with the class momentum so that I don't, things don't fall by the wayside and people get confused. Today's topic, as I just continually I'm adjusting lights, adjusting my computer, adjusting my everything. I think we're finally adjusted here. The flying rainbow lasagna, the flower of life, and the Merkabah. We're going to go into so many things today. This is the level 1 presentation about Merkabah. A couple of weeks ago, I already did the level 2 advanced presentation. So we're very non-linear in this class because I alternate, but I think that we're finally starting to synchronize level 1 and level 2. So today you will get actually the initiatory teachings of what Merkabah is, but you've already had the advanced teachings, and you're going to find out how is it the same, how is it different than the flying rainbow lasagna. So these are two complementary types of energy portals that you can use for the purposes of, we would call it interdimensional traveling, or I have extensive notes, so please, thank you for your understanding while I squint and scroll over here. Here, I have, when I write these down, because sometimes I really like the phrasing of what I have. Hold on a second. This allows us to travel mentally. This is a different type of hold on a second, a different type of and I'm also letting people come on in. It's a different type of a vehicle than the type of vehicle that you use to get from point A to point B. It is the type of vehicle that you use to travel interdimensionally. What does that mean? It means going through a doorway or a portal of consciousness. When you go through a portal of consciousness, you could think of my screen being bifurcated, like right down the center of my face. And you're like the little ant and you're walking along over here and you go through this membrane or through this consciousness portal and you walk through the other side and you're like, oh, look, like the ground looks exactly the same here, but it is not the same. You have entered into a new reality. That is the type of consciousness transportation that we are talking about, that both of these portals or doorways or vehicles allow for. Similarities, both portals for going into interdimensional traveling. I think that I might have inhibited you too much by some of my cautionary tales about how I used my Merkabah in my early days and had fun learning experiences, we'll call them, with the cosmos about what not to do and also about not driving your car into a bad neighborhood. I wanted to say this is such an important topic. I didn't want to miss it because of my internet outage, because I think it's time for us to travel interdimensionally. I've been having all sorts of dreams that are about this, where like I'm driving down a road and I start to feel this rising feeling inside, like, and then I feel like, boom, I've gone through a portal. And of course, on the other side, you don't just go into blackness, you continue I would call it an interpolation, like when you interpolate a graph. So let's say here we have a bar graph and it's going upward like this, and then there's no more data. But what we do is we interpolate it. We say, well, it's been going like this to this point. Then we imagine that it will go further. If everything keeps going, it will go in this direction. So some of our journey into higher dimensional realities includes a seamless integration or interpolation of the energy, momentum, and timelines that we have been having up until that moment. However, you emerge into a different reality, a slightly different or magnificently different changed and transformed reality, but it's not the same as like I was driving on a road and then there was a sudden demarcation, then all of a sudden like I'm riding a camel on sand or something like that. Not like that. It is, let's say, when you're a good painter or a good musician, you have smooth segues into the next thing. It's not this jarring thing. So we're talking about being an artist of reality and also going with time currents, the same way that a graceful dancer would be like, oh, now I'm going in this direction. Now I'm going to spin and pirouette. And now I am doing the backstroke in another, another direction. That is how we do all of these beautiful time acrobatics, all right? So similarities, portaling between dimensions, similarities. Both of these shapes, Merkaba or star tetrahedron and flying rainbow lasagna, involve a use of perception, your tools of your perception, meaning how you interpret the raw data of reality as the impetus for jumping into a higher dimension. And I did that in the advanced class, the idea of transforming from star tetrahedron into octahedron. Let me go, wait, I have to clearly have so many things. Like, wait, I'm very excited. I want to show you everything. I have lots of pictures to show you, lots of sculptures to show you. First, let me go to share screen. Share it. Okay, this is something we're getting rid of. This is something we're getting rid of. This is also something we're getting rid of. Thank you. Now we're finally getting to the good stuff. Hold on a second. Okay, so let me go here. I did brighten up this picture a little bit, but it didn't come out that bright. And I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. Oops, hold on a second. I'm going to drive you crazy. Make this window bigger. And then this is the line, I'm gonna expand it for you. This is the line drawing for my painting that is called Birth of a New Dimension. So you guys mostly are familiar with this as a painting that has all of the color already put into it. But I am sharing the line drawing with you here today because I really think that the drawing aspect of it without the color can be another level of information that can be a little bit distractive, shows you very beautifully how your toroidal energy field, hold on, I know I just walked off camera. Toroidal energy field, that's this over here. And I'll go back to my full screen and you'll be able to see it better. But the energy field, and this is also a fragile sculpture. I can put it down very gently. Toroidal energy field is the shape of our chakras, the shape of our time body, and relates to eights and octahedra. That's the plural of octahedron. And I will show you how that relates when we go back to my face in the real world. What you see here are two seated figures, this one here and this one here. And this is actually, I would call it a twin Merkabah. Each of these seated human figures, where you can see their legs are kind of crossed down at the bottom here, has a central convergence point, and I would call that the singularity, even though you know that each chakra has a singularity, but this is a somewhat simplified version. Then you can see these beautiful, I would call them higher dimensional wings or angelic wings that have this cross-section four-lobed shape. You can see the toroidal energy field that is around them. So this is like a vortex that is in the upper position, quote unquote, coming out of the top of the head. This is the vortex that is going down through the root chakra or out through the pelvis. These are both interconnected. So what you have here there are two people and they're holding hands, and their chakras and energy field that is toroidal are connected and interactive. And then you can also see how there is this outline. I hope my cursor is visible to you. These straight lines, first of all, which in my painting are not actually made out of straight lines of the ruler. They're made out of many, many clustered little tiny bubbles or spheres. So yeah, the straight, because I have no straight lines in my painting. So if I need to draw a straight line, it's made out of many, like 10 million little circles. These little facet shapes. That this is the star tetrahedron. Today's lesson is all about this, not necessarily joining together with another person. That's kind of part of the narrative of this painting. So you can just put that aside, but rather the integration of the chakra shape, which is made out of circles, spheres, and sine waves. Sine waves go like this, curly like the edge of a lasagna noodle. And the chakra shapes are also based in eights, octagons, octahedrons, and integrating that with the star tetrahedron shape, the Merkabah, light body vessel, Merkabah, light body vessel. That is what this outline is here. That it's sometimes known as Star of David, or the star that's on the flag of the state of Israel. Just to reiterate that this use of the star is ancient. It is antediluvian. It predates the nation state of Israel or Judaism or the Torah or Christianity for that matter. So it is a non-denominational signal that has been appropriated by a particular level of religious worship and nation state. But please understand that it is made for everyone. It does not mean that you are Jewish or Israeli if you visualize this force field around you. It actually emanates from the time when we lived in ancient or concurrent Atlantis, and the capacity to envision this protective energy field around us, which is also a vehicle for portaling or interdimensional travel, is considered a basic life skill, something that you simply do. Like here, we simply tie our shoes in the morning or do some other very basic level of coordination. So these two energy fields, the toroidal energy field, which is the precursor of the flying rainbow lasagna, and the Merkabah, have to integrate. Go back to my face. The challenge of these two energy fields integrating is that the Merkabah is based upon hexagons. Hexa, the prefix, means 6, and a good mnemonic device to remember that is the X sound, 6. Hexa. So stop signs are hexagonal, and beehives, the honeycomb of bees, are hexagonal. Hexagonal grids are made up out of equilateral triangles. This is geometry. Don't be afraid, everyone. I'm a very friendly math teacher. You're like, no, I remember geometry. I hated it. No, we are having the corrective experience of positive geometry. This does count as geometry measuring Earth, geometric measuring Earth, because we're talking about physical structures of the physical reality. But when we get to levels of the chakras and your non-physical energy presence in the flying rainbow lasagna, we are talking about measuring a non-physical reality that is your pure energy presence. And what we are doing in this teaching today is the integration of pure energy presence, timelines, possibilities, quantum abstraction with the physical somatic cellular structure of your body. Putting these two things together are absolutely empowering. I want to say they're like two great tastes that taste great together, chocolate and peanut butter. I know that that might be a little bit of a dated reference, but I think that some of you might remember it. These are the shape of what honeycombs are shaped like inside of a beehive. So you know, bees make these little wax containers for their honey and their royal pollen and their little bee babies, because it is one of the most efficient packing shapes and one of the strongest shapes in terms of health and vitality. These equilateral triangles, first of all, equilateral means equal on all sides. So I think this might be like whatever, 3 inches, same size on all sides. This is a 60-degree angle, 60, 60, 60. And the rules of math state that the angles of a triangle must all add up to 180 degrees. Don't put your fingers in your ears. It's fun math. Don't be afraid. 60, 60, 60. All right. So everything that's made on this hexagonal grid, that includes your basic physical cellular structure. You're just like a bee. You're just like the center of a sunflower. You're just like any of these beautiful mathematical progressions that we see in the world that are an expression of divine truth, health, vitality, and everything that is that helps us to remain alive, that is about longevity. All of these aspects are based upon the hexagonal grid and upon, let's get into it, water and carbon. Water and carbon are both based on hexagonal shapes, and they are a huge proportion of what our physicality being is made out of. Your body has a lot of the molecule known as water. When water freezes, it makes hexagonal crystals. I'm sure you guys almost all have experienced them. They're called snowflakes. Or maybe ice cubes if you live someplace very, very hot and it never snows. But snowflakes, or if you've ever seen a picture of a snowflake, they are all 6-sided hexagons. The crystallization structure of water, which is so much of what we are comprised of, is hexagonal. Charlie B's coming in. And carbon is also hexagonal. Wait, like what is even a hexagon? What is a hexagon? I will draw it for you. Hold on a second. Let's go to the whiteboard. And then after we get through this, you'll see so many fun and interesting things. A hexagon is a 6-sided shape, stop sign shape. Got it? And usually, here's a dot in the center. Usually we apportion it up, we get a different color, as these equilateral triangles like this. All right, maybe cutting them into pie slices, slices of the reality pie. So when we see a hexagonal structure that is divided up like that, we tend to interpret it in a flat sense. This is big, guys. This goes everything to your visual cortex, your occipital lobe, your cultural training, and your actual eyesight itself in the way that you focus and look at or through a screen. Hold on a second. I'm also going to give you a lesson in art history. This is big. This shape that I just drew, in fact, can I even, let me do a little bit of shading on it because I think that will help too. I know that's a pretty hastily drawn area, but I want to use shading is a big part of how we interpret when we start to look at these shapes. So you can see I chose a lighter blue and a darker blue, and then over here I'll choose a medium blue. This is big. So even though that's a rather hastily drawn picture, when you look at this one over here, you interpret that as a cube, all right? You interpret it as that is a pointy vertex of a cube popping forward towards your nose. And that this over here is a pointy vortex right here, pointy vertex of the cube that is pointing away from your nose. As opposed to when we look at this, hey, that's just a flat hexagon. When I say flat, a flat two-dimensional thing. Your difference in experience as you look at these two shapes is based entirely upon your visual training, your use of your eyesight, literally how you focus your eyesight, either on the flat plane or as if you are looking through for distance, your cultural milieu meaning context, or that with which you float within or navigate within, and your training in what we would call the world of visual perception, and that includes art and art history. So now I'll go back to my face. Hold on, don't worry, I'll show you lots and lots of pictures today. Let's talk about the Renaissance, everyone. The Renaissance, this was a time maybe like 500 or 600 years ago when they changed the way that humans look at flat objects. Up until that time, a lot of paintings were painted without dimensional depth. A flat painting was a flat painting. And that means that there was not this type of 1 or 2 point perspective that makes it look like something is going away from you in the screen, or foreground, midground, background. We take this for granted now. Everyone here looks at television screens, movie screens, even this Zoom screen, and you say, here is Aurora. Aurora is in the foreground. That wall behind me is in the midground. And then the wall that is far back there where there's a closet with, some handbags on it, that's the background, right? You see depth. Foreground, midground, background. And that's when you go to art school, they teach you that in terms of composition. Like, here's your bowl of fruit, here's the stuff that's at the front, here's the stuff that's behind it, and then here's the stuff that's way, way behind it. All of that is part of your cultural milieu. When perspective was invented or created, hi Charlie, be good to see you, man. In the Renaissance, hundreds of years ago, what happened was a revolution. Two things happened. Actually, first we had the invention and popularity made more widely of the art material known as oil paint. Oil paint was revolutionary. It allowed artists to be able to create much more reality, depth, layers, and glazing for photorealism, especially of portraits, and at the same time was invented, created, popularized the drawing technique known as 1 or 2 point perspective. That makes it so that when you have a square, like a painting canvas, or a piece of paper or parchment, whatever you are painting upon, instead of looking at that as a flat thing, that you're going to ask the viewer to look at it as if it is a window that has depth. Again, that is something that in our time and place and culture, we learn that as a little tiny child. Little tiny children are looking at the phone. Everybody knows you look into it like it's a world in there. However, that is part of cultural conditioning, not part of your naturally arising biological structure when you come here and look at the world. And also I'll say mostly this is for people that are binocular, because some people have monocular vision or have differently abled eyes, all right? But this is for most people that have two eyes, and mostly the way that our occipital cortex is set up, that we mostly come here not having the pre-made, baked-in interpretation system of knowing that when we look at something flat, we have to look through it, but we are acculturated to do that. In adulthood, in the Renaissance, adults had to be taught, look at this painting, and it looks like it's a window, and there's a whole world in there. That was mind-blowing and expansive to the people at that time. So the Renaissance was also a time when a lot of things were leveling up culturally. The art represented the transformation and expansion of human thought perception in that time in human culture. The paintings are part of that. And the great artists of the time kind of led humanity on a journey of awakening. First, I'm going to paint this painting over here, and you're going to learn like, oh, you look through it like a window. Then I'm going to get more complex. And then you're going to see it looks like this. Then you're going to get more complex. You're going to see it looks like this. Constantly challenging people in their visual perception and ability to interpret what is presented as artwork. So the journey of perception and human perception was cultivated. Like first you learn this, then you learn this, then you get more complex and you get better at looking and seeing and interpreting, and then you learn this until we have, much more complex art. There's loud play going overhead. Artistic, the word is not compilations. The word is compositions, more complex artistic compositions that happen as humans were ready to perceive more with their eyesight and system of interpretation. So they had to learn in adulthood what most of us learn in childhood in terms of these levels of complexity. And yeah, when you get to the point of like Rembrandt or some of these other Renaissance artists that knew how to use lighting, light, shade, and shadow and perspective to be able to show, here's something going, look, here's another thing, guys, look at how big my hands are on the screen. Now look at how big my hands are on the screen. Now look at how big my hands are on the screen. Oh, you can see I have white paint on my hand. Now look at how big my hands are on the screen. Things that are bigger are closer to you. Things that are smaller are further away from you. This is also part of our system of interpretation. Blah, 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 all of that in order to say that when we go back to this understanding or comprehension of cubes and hexagons, because this is what we're doing. When you use the Merkabah, when you transform from a star tetrahedron into a octahedron, which is what that painting is all about, when you start to transform from Taurus into flying rainbow lasagna, everything that you're doing is a switch of perception. Like what happened in the Renaissance. People used to look at the world like this, a flat hexagon. Then they learned about shading. That's why I had to choose the 3 blue colors, because you've got the light one over here that represents a lot of light coming onto it, and then slightly less light here and slightly less light here. Helps our system of interpretation to know and understand how to understand a line drawing so that it doesn't look flat. All right, hold on a second. Now let me go back to some of these images that I have. So now when you look at this, you can see here, let me draw. Draw with the color you can see. Here's a big giant circle. That's not a very well drawn circle, but I'm just highlighting. My pen doesn't always work perfectly. Here's a big giant circle. All right, so this is your toroidal energy field. Here's the singularity inside of this figure. Here's the singularity inside of this figure. And you have the circles and spheres and 8 lobes. Why do I say 8 lobes? Here's 1, 2, 3, 4 of these quote unquote angel wings, but you're in cross section. So you've also got 5, 6, 7, 8. And that is what this sculpture is. It represents the negative space within the chakra or toroidal structure. I'll show you that when I go back to my face. We're going to contrast this shape that is about 8s, octaves, and circular energy movements, and this shape that is made out of these seemingly straight lines, that is made out of these interlocking, oops, that's not a good drawing, star tetrahedron. So now I'm starting to draw these as these pyramid shapes. This is one of the pyramid shapes that sticks forward like this. And as I'm drawing this pyramid shape, you're using your system of interpretation, because I've done this in class before. And then you know that this is another pyramid shape that sticks outward away from you in that direction. So we've got these two types of grids, hexagonal and square. Wait a minute, Aurora, I don't understand even what you're talking about in terms of something that is a hexagonal or a square grid. Okay, hexagonal grid is based upon this, but a square grid is based upon this. Wait, Aurora, I don't even understand how this orange sculpture relates to anything. Stop, wait, and go back. So right now, the way that I'm holding on to this, I hold my little child. This is made out of like Play-Doh clay, literally, but it has worked for many years. 1, 2, 3, 4. You see 4 orange, rather football-shaped lobes. Look at this painting behind me. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a cross-section of the chakra system of our body. And here's my delicate, fragile sculpture that I try not to break. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, and of course, subdivide it into all these 7 layers. But wait a minute, you're only looking at half of that sculpture because you can see that there's a whole other half behind it. So you actually have 8. You actually have 8 of each of these, not 4 of each of these, right? If I, how can I describe this to you effectively? Mostly what you're seeing is a flat cross section. That painting there is a flat cross section. When I'm showing you this, I'm showing you a 3-dimensional object. Look, there's this thing that's pointing towards you that you can't see because it's so skinny. There it is. Now you can't see it. It's too skinny. There it is. Now you can't see it. It's too skinny. So mostly you're counting up 1, 2. I'm like the count on Sesame Street. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm joking. I get very lighthearted, but 1, 2, 3, 4. And then, but wait a minute. Where's my finger right over here? I'm pointing into, there's another one there, 5, 6, 7, 8. You have 8 lobes in this shape. Let me show you on a different way. This will help you. It's all about approaching this teaching from many multiple angles. That's why I show you all these different things. So this is a simplified version of that same sculpture. When you look at it, you can see that 4-lobed shape. In art, when we talk about the negative space, negative does not mean mean, bad, wrong, or evil. The negative space of my coffee cup is where the coffee actually goes in the cup, all right? So positive space is the ceramic of the cup. Negative space is where the coffee goes in the cup. In this sculpture, the positive space is the actual shape of the vortex, where I'm putting my fingers right here. Where I'm wiggling my finger here, that is the negative space of this sculpture. This sculpture is like a balloon or very stretchy fabric of time, space, and consciousness that is being dimpled from this direction, this direction, this direction, and this direction by God's divine finger. And when that happens and that stretchiness occurs, everything converges here at the singularity point, but there is still a bifurcation or a demarcation between this membrane, the inside where I'm wiggling my finger, and the outside over here, which is this area in the vortex. And that area in the vortex is what contains your timelines, possibilities. Remember, you're moving upward, 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 spiraling ever closer and closer on the path of ascension. This is review for some people, but this is the first time that some people might be being exposed to this. This orange shape represents the negative space of this shape here. And at first, when I present it to you, I hold the backside of the sculpture so that you're only seeing in simplification the front 4 lobes. But then I'm going to do something. Dun, dun, dun. I'm going to turn it around. You're like, wait, Aurora, you're holding half of the sculpture in your hand. That's right. So it's counted out for me, Sesame Street style. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You actually have 8 lobes all together in understanding, comprehending the negative space of your chakras, which are made of time. So your somatic cells of your body are the expression through the bridge of DNA of physicality, and you are experiencing them in time. They are not pure energetic abstraction, and they are built on the hexagonal grid. The world of pure time and pure abstraction, which is also an equally valid level of your existence, is built on squares and cubes. And that is what this 8-sided figure is all about. So if I hold this just right, you can see this makes a flat plane up top here, a 4-sided flat plane. Do. You could connect those 4 little points to make a square. And that there's another side on this side that is a square. Count it out with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is also a 6-sided sculpture, but it is a cube. how do we relate this six-sided cube structure with the hexagon? And why does it matter to me? Because you need to gain an additional dimension, to gain an additional degree of freedom, to fly onto a better timeline and go through a portal. Stick with me, it's worth it. This also relates to the work of Ashayana Dean, who I'm not that familiar with, but people have familiarized me because she does make reference to Aurora and the Aurora Collective. So I only bring up her work in stating that she does talk about the limited and negative information of giving the flower of life, but without all of the true nourishment and meat and potatoes involved in it. So I've used the expression of this. It's like when you have a very severe grandmother and she's like, I'm going to give you the family strudel recipe. You just take some water and some flour and you mix it together and you roll it out and you know, put the apples on top and roll it all up. And that's how we've done it for years. And you're like, okay, great. I've got the entire procedure. I'm ready to go. And then grandmother passes away and you try to make it. You're like, this is nothing like grandmother's strudel recipe because she left out key techniques, key information, key everything. Again, she was a severe and withholding grandmother, not a warm and encompassing grandmother. However, I am a warm and encompassing grandmother, and I'm giving you the totality strudel recipe of what the flower of life is. So now let me go to this is the limited strudel recipe. It is a slice of one layer of reality, but that does not encompass all of the information that is in this sculpture that I've got in front of my face here. You see this over here. It's not necessarily a malevolency. However, it is a limited amount of information that if you actually want to transform your physicality structure and add an additional degree of freedom, it's not exactly right. So one of the things that's not exactly right is the shape of the lobes. They need to be a little bit fatter, not necessarily the skinny ones. And I'll teach you all about that. You need to integrate them with the curvilinear aspect of your chakras. And you need to know, most importantly, so Ashayana talks about the daisy of death. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those are the 6 radial spokes that are mostly shown as the flower of life. But you guys are smart. You are experiencers of this class. You know, there's this one that is pointing forwards to the camera. It is foreshortened. Right now, my arm is foreshortened. Wow, look at that. You can see like the edge of my fingers, but hardly any of my shoulder. And it looks giant in perspective. That's what foreshortening is. It's when it's coming closer to your face, but it also looks hugely distorted. That is what this lobe is. It is foreshortened to the point that it looks in a drawing, it would look just like a round circle. And I'm holding the one that is the complement to it back here. This is the one that points away from it. So these two, boom, there's that foreshortened perspective again. This represents a different plane of existence. So the daisy, or the radial spokes, there, it looks like radial spokes now, is like a slice that goes across like this, lateral slice, but it negates or neglects to give the full picture of here, this one, and I'm trying to do it right, this one and this one, this one and this one, these two guys sticking upward above the flat plane. I'll draw it for you. These guys that are over here, why does this matter? Why does this matter? I'll get to it, I promise you. Why does this matter, Aurora? Let me get to the annotation before it hides away. So here you can see the 6 radial spokes. Wait, let me choose a better color. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's good. It's a hexagon. It's what your cells of your body are based upon. These football shapes are a little bit skinny. They need to be a little bit fatter and for this true strudel recipe. And we also need to add together this one that is foreshortened, that is jumping towards the camera, and this one that jumps away from the camera. So in cross section, you would see here's the flat plane. You actually have a lobe that is sticking up and you have a lobe that is sticking down. This gives you the full cube of what your cellular structure is actually shaped like. And that gives you the capacity to actually reinterpret reality like a person in the Renaissance. Here is the flat structure. You see those radial spokes, just like what I had in that picture. Here is the cube structure. With your perception, it is necessary to add another plane of existence that is coming towards your nose and then going back away to the back wall. Let me get into carbon atoms and the diamond. And I know I'm going fast now. We get to all of your questions and wonderments. let me just get to this, because I think that the more that I go, I'm like, go. Wait. No, I'm pressing the wrong button completely. Okay, first, so now let me minimize this down here. You guys already saw this up here. Let me show you these guys. Wait, this is important and good. Let me put it off to the side. This is what I really want to show you. So these are screenshots. Oh, and wait, this one is also important, and I want to show you this. That's that same sculpture, same thing. This is a screenshot from the lesson. What you see over here is not a drawing that I did, but it does show very effectively on the side. This is cellular conception of a human egg. Here at the top is the moment of fertilization. Here is the first time the cell is splitting into its two component parts, the first proliferation of cellular growth. Here, so first you have a 1, then you have a 2, then both of those cells split and you get a 4. You get it? Then that 4 splits and you get an 8. Then that 8 splits, it goes upward. This becomes 64 over here. This is what is known on the left as the flower of life into the seed of life. All of this is seeing with insight and perception on purely the cellular level. It is necessary to integrate that with the chakras in order to have true freedom. That's it. I'm just trying to say none of it is a plot against you, but there has been some limiting information sharing. Been a little bit limited from what people have shared with you, but now it is time to level up. So when your mommy and your daddy made you as a container in conception, your body, your physicality started off as one cell that split into 2, that split into 4, that split and subdivided until it made this cluster of 64 cells that has roughly this shape over here. Those initial cells and the initial geometric formation of them is what gives you vitality in the level of your body expression that you presently experience, that you kept on then subdividing and subdividing some more until you became the shape of the container that you presently are. So your hexagonal grid dictates the physical health, vitality, and longevity of your physical container. Hexagons are good. Hexagons are great. I'm not saying one is better than the other. It is necessary to integrate both of them together. What I'm showing you now are carbon atoms. Our body is made of a lot of water. Our body is also made of a lot of carbon. Carbon is made up of hexagonal atoms. Here I'm going to use, can I do, no, hold on. It doesn't always give me the annotation. There, I just had to ask for it. That's definitely an example of something listening in the computer. Here is a hexagon. I know it is foreshortened, but you can see it. It looks like it's on a flat plane going away from you. You can interpret that easily because you guys are experts at perspective and foreshortening. So this is one carbon atom over here, this ring that is a hexagonal ring. And then here you can see there's a whole plane, a flat plane of hexagonal carbon rings that are all stuck together. This is the form of carbon that is known as graphite. Where is a pencil? I don't have a pencil on my desk, but look at a pencil and you will see an example of graphite. It is known as pencil lead. And wait, I'll go back to my face. Pencil lead is an interesting form of carbon, graphite, because so here's that flat plane of hexagonal rings of carbon, and here's another flat plane, and it's a lubricant. The two of them slide against each other like this. That is how come, like when you draw with a pencil, it feels slippery on the paper, kind of all that sliding along. So you have this multiple layers of carbon in graphite. There's another form of carbon we might not have easily available in our house because it's not the 1800s. But if you ran your house on coal and you lived in the 1800s, then you would have an excellent example of carbon, which is coal. That's when you have all of those perfectly flat planes of graphite, but you mush them all together. You hither, thither, and yon, just mushed together. Carbon is coal, and that is extremely soft, extremely crumbly, extremely black and dark. It's like it is like charcoal. And then I don't have an example, but they are known as a girl's best friend, diamonds. Diamonds are another household example of the third level of what carbon is, and that is what I'm going to show you in this transformative series right over here. Hold on a second. So this is graphite, flat planes together. This is because these are screenshots from an animation. That's why I call it a transformative series. Okay, wait, I want to make sure I get them in the right order. This is the next step in the transformation. You can see that that flat plane begins to become deformed and make a Z shape, kind of like the edge of, I'm saying like, you know, a Ruffles potato chip. Do you know that Ridgie's potato chips? I don't eat them. I don't know what they're called. Rigid potato chips, ones that have ridges on them. So the edge of the flat plane begins to become kind of Z-shaped or V-shaped, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, or folded like a fan is another way of thinking about it. And then you can start to see here in the animation, these vertical struts begin to appear. And then, hold on a second, wait, now I want to get rid of the annotation. I want to get rid of this. Oh, here, wait, do this. Now I want to go back to here. Yeah, until we get to this point where we have these flat planes have now become ridged like potato chips, and their vertical struts connect them together. And now you can see you have not only horizontal, where my cursor is wiggling across hexagons, but you also have these vertical hexagons. And now I'm going to clear this all away so that you can see an end result of what a diamond lattice, this is music that should also be cleared away. We'll get there, guys. Hold on a second. No. I want to go to, this is also not what we want to see. Yeah, I'm not there yet. This, hiding behind here. And I'll make it bigger for you. Thank you. This is a crystalline structure, a diamond lattice work of carbon molecules. You can see that it is perfectly arranged. The word is tessellated so that each one of these molecular struts connects perfectly with each one of these other molecular struts, and there are no empty gaps or empty puzzle pieces. A tessellation means a tiling or a crystalline structure or a lattice work or a matrix where all of the molecules are perfectly arranged. When all of the molecules are perfectly arranged in this, it is known, it's the same carbon molecules, huge emphasis, the same molecules that are in coal or pencil lead are in a diamond, but they are arranged differently. When they are arranged here, they are perfectly arranged, perfectly formatted. And what is the difference is that coal is black, soft, and smeary and crumbly. It has very little tensile strength. Graphite is rather soft, very slippery, still a dark color. Diamond is effing hard. It is known as one of the hardest substances and most durable substances in our world. It is also translucent in that light comes into it, bounces all around, creates what is known as brilliance, and then bounces out the other side. We do not have light entering into and then emerging from and bouncing through coal. It's a black smeary thing that kind of traps light inside of it. This is all about you and your body. When your body cells are perfectly arranged in these, I'm making these are spherical cells, but when they arrange perfectly in these lattice works, matrices, positive matrix, not the deadly matrix from Keanu Reeves where you're going to get shot with bullets, positive matrix of organization. I know I get lighthearted. In all of these spheres, what happens is your body becomes the diamond body. Diamond body, let's write this out. In Tibetan Buddhism, it is known as the Vajrayana, Vajrayana. That's kind of light on your screen, but I hope you can read it. The Vajrayana body, meaning the diamond body. This is, and I want to read it from my notes, it is the body through which, through spiritual and consciousness self-cultivation, becomes the vehicle for your continued travel or existence in reality. Let me read exactly what I have because I wrote it so well. I have to squint and scroll. Oh wait, come on. Hold on, thank you. In fact, hold on. While I'm squinting and scrolling, I also need to take care of myself with my structured water. And today's teaching, I'm going to teach you all about structured water because guess what? Water is made of hexagonal crystals. And when I structure my water, it's actually a liquid crystal. And those hexagonal crystals then come inside of me. And I have hexagonal water crystals inside of me. And I become better structured. And I encourage all of you to do the same thing. So wait, but I want to talk about Vajrayana and exactly what I wrote. the Vajrayana Body, in Buddhism known as the diamond body of indestructible light. Human metamorphosis, transforming into crystalline structure, Christ nature, crystalline structure, change of characteristics. More light passes through us. When you become more than a mere random amalgamation of cells and tacos and pizza and avocados or whatever it is that you eat, you become a perfectly organized crystalline structure. More light passes through you. Yeah. Very big. Light as information, light as divine consciousness, light as higher intelligence, light as organizational principle. As you ascend and transcend the density of the physical realm, transforming into a crystalline structure, transforming your light body so that you conform to this diamond Vajrayana pattern, transforming your consciousness and your perception so that instead of looking at things as a flat two-dimensional surface, you are adding perception, adding an additional degree of freedom, means transcending the density of the physical plane, gaining a higher dimension by folding the molecules of your body into a new state, into a non-destructible form, a reorganization of the same molecular ingredients. You become like the ridged potato chips, and you are now shaped differently on a molecular level so that you can go through the frequency door. And that's a reference to my song, Symphony of Life, because I have this song where I'm talking all about these things, and then I use the echo and echo delay ringtone effect, and I say, go through the frequency door. That's what I was talking about at the beginning of this presentation, going through a portal, driving on a road or walking on a pathway, and then you go through a portal, your foot comes down on the other side of the pathway, you don't just fall into nothingness, but you're not in the same level of reality. How did you do that? What did you do? You changed your shape, the way that a key must fit in a lock. Hold on a second, let me put this down. How does a mechanical lock work? You have a receptive area, like where you're in your door, that has a particular negative space. And then your key, this is pretending that this is my house key, has to fit into the negative space of that lock in order to be able to turn it and open it up and go through the key. Dimensional portals are like receptive apertures. You have to change the shape of you to fit into the lock. You are the key. You have to fit into the lock to be able to go through that energy portal. And these are, you could call them energetic firewalls, safeguards, ways that reality is structured in order to refine consciousness, refine the soul trajectory, and make sure that desirable levels of characteristics and people who have done their math homework correctly, when you do your math homework correctly, you're shaped in the right shape. You go through the frequency door, and then you are able to emerge on the other side through the portal into a new level of reality that you didn't bring a lot of negative, unwanted stuff with you. This relates to everything in my teaching of level 2 about creating the protective star tetrahedron force field around your pineal gland so that you've got a little baby one of these. Here's my 2 interlocking, beautiful star tetrahedron shaped, holding it up to the camera kind of right. You know what I mean? Not to fiddle with it too much, but they're inside of my head and I'm envisioning them around my pineal gland so that my pineal gland as an emanator of reality is protected from, hold on a second, is protected from interlopers. This is big, and I really like this part of this teaching. When you are using your pineal gland, the seat of your imagination, the emanator of your Christ consciousness, you are cultivating a seed, a thought seed of reality that you are going to place into the vibrating field of, we would call it quantum potential, a vibrating field of nourishing energy that is also known as God. All right. And you're in co-creative partnership with you, this version and direction of consciousness, and that thing, which is not the word like a pointy hatted person, that object, item, stuff that is what you are interrelating with. And the action of interrelating with that is God. You're godding with God the verb. So I know I stumbled over linear language a lot. Let me try to reiterate that. Thought seed is made from your own mind, from your own consciousness. You cultivate it. It is contained when we talked about advanced Merkabah. all of the things I definitely want. I know I want ice cream on Tuesday. It's going to be taste like this, and it's going to come to me in this way. And the receptive pyramid. I want something that's a reward. I want something cold and sweet and, you know, refreshing on a hot summer's day. And that's the thought seed of reality creation, your wishes, your passions, everything that you're generating, and that you are in divine co-creative partnership with the field of pure potential that is all around you. Just like in a garden, you prepare the soil, rototill the soil, put down the compost, put down everything. They call it chocolate cake. You know what I mean? Like it looks like a beautiful field of chocolate cake, and then you are ready to plant like whatever, your pumpkin seeds, your tomato seeds, your squash seeds, and put them out there, and then they will grow up into your beautiful garden. So you have the field of potentials. That is your beautifully prepared garden bed that is rototilled and has no weeds in it, and it is ready to nourish your thought seeds. And then you are creating these specifics, desires, imagines, envisionings of what reality you want to experience. And this is appropriate. You are first person experiencer. You're like, hey, I'm here. I am boots on the ground. I am in the driver's seat. I want to have this, this, and this. I want to experience this. And also I want to be receptive and open to chef's choice and the interesting, wonderful, fun adventures that will happen that I couldn't possibly have imagined or presupposed, or that might even be greater than what I imagined. And just as a very brief aside, I used to participate in a very lovely Inipi lodge or a sweat lodge of a, you know, like a Native American style experience. And one of the teacher organizers there used to have this very good sharing of wisdom where he would say, like, sometimes you ask for something from the cosmos, like, I want this and this and this. And sometimes the answer is not a hard no. If you don't get what you want when you ask or make these, you know, energetic envisionments, please don't take it as a hard no, like, wham, no. It's not like that. Sometimes the answer is not yet. And sometimes the answer is, I have something better in mind for you. Please keep that as your co-creative, divine, collaborative, artistic approach with the cosmos and God as your divine lover, saying like, I want this, this, and this for me. It's okay for you to have ego desires, or even for someone else. Like, I want healing for this person, or I want them to, you know, get a positive career, or any of these things. I want them to be rich. All of those things are fine. And if that doesn't happen in the way that you expected, time frame that you expected, or, you know, seems to not be being fulfilled, sometimes the answer is not yet. And sometimes the answer is, I have something better in mind, chef's choice. Be open to those things. Okay. That's big in this co-creative partnership stuff. And then also what I was talking about in terms of Merkabah as protection, I do need to drink a little bit more of my wonderful structured water. There are negative, errant, malevolent, and sometimes fragmented thought consciousnesses that are floating around there. The kaka-poo-poo, the pooties, whatever we would call them. Those who did not die well, personality characteristics that are not desirable, all the stuff that you can't bring with you through the frequency door. Gotta leave that stuff behind. It's not the right shape. Literally, when you are transforming yourself using these aspects of self-cultivation and perception into having a Vajrayana body, into having a diamond vehicle, into having a Merkabah, you are fine-tuning and focusing yourself so that you are a coherent light being. You are like laser light. All of your ups and all of your downs fit together perfectly. You are perfectly, play my music, hold on a second, perfectly in tune with the cosmos. Yeah, and totally grooving and doing exactly the right things in your divine co-creative partnership. You want to put a beautiful protected energy field around your imagination, around your reality projector, so that none of the peanut gallery is a nice way of saying it. None of the kaka-poo-poo gets to influence your beautiful thought seed, because sometimes they have outward, overtly malevolent desires like, you're perfect and you're divine and you're an angel and a diamond, and I hate you. I want to sabotage you. I want to pee and poop all over you. I want to mess up your reality creation. You got to understand, sometimes it's like that. So I'm always presenting it like, oh, like, you know, if they might have made a mistake in life and they're very this and they're very that, but sometimes they are very mean. And you must understand that. Sometimes they might wait there like, I see that you've got, you know, your paintbrush of reality, and you're about to paint this beautiful painting of reality, and I'm gonna like make it all crappy. Okay, so just understand that that's a real caveat something to watch out for in your creative process. And what it looks like in the non-anthropomorphic sense is a frequency ball of vibrations and waveforms is being created. And then here's a bunch of waveforms that don't belong. Caca music, it's being like, I'm trying to influence your beautiful music. And so having this protective energetic field, the Merkabah, protects your mind in this vulnerable moment of creation in partnership with God as you're guiding with God, so that you emanate only the things that you wish to emanate into reality, not continued pain fragments from those who have already suffered, already made a lot of math mistakes on their math homework, have not taken responsibility for it, have not self-cultivated to that level. And in many ways, they're like, I will hijack you. Like, I don't have my own stuff together. I'm going to hijack your stuff, and hoping to piggyback themselves into reality. Being a conscious co-creator, no thank you, no piggybacking. And that's also no thank you to ancestral trauma. Ancestral trauma radiating from the past and everything that has happened that, in the lineage that I'm in this body. You can actually look at me, I'm like, stop. Like, you can stop. You can just stay where you are. You do not have to emanate into me, my body, and you don't have to emanate forward into the future. Everything from starvation to genocide to diaspora to war to rape to any of the things that happened that scarred previous generations, you are not obliged to bring it forward into this generation. It helps you, it helps the entire time field. It is literally part of your, not job, but your meaning and your purpose in being here, to change and transform in this generation the profound suffering of the past, so that it is not radiating forward when you plant a new thought seed of the future. And planetary ascension and individual ascension, everything that we're experiencing right now, literally right now, today, not like next Tuesday, now. That's why I'm doing the broadcast, even though my internet is disrupted. Doing it now, plant your thought seed now, is essential to do this release of ancestral trauma. And then also, of course, healing and release and transcendence of personal trauma. Trauma can be something like, let's say you were in a car crash, and you're going around a corner and it crashed into another car. And now you've recovered. Now you're back in a new car. Maybe your friend is driving, but as you go around the corner, your body is like, oh no, we're going around that corner. We're going to crash again. And it takes many of what is called the corrective experience. Go around that corner, you didn't crash. You were just fine. I had this experience actually with someone who was in a terrible car accident, and I was going around the corner and they're like bracing themselves like this. And we made it around the corner. I said, we made it around the corner. You are okay. Because their whole body and their whole expectation system and structure of being was used to and programmed to, from their negative experience, something bad is going to happen. And it takes many positive experiences to be kind of like, we're just driving around the corner. I'm not going to crash. Everything is okay. So a lot of this is the reassurance and transforming of the nervous system reset. That's a lot of what I do in my personal sessions. You guys just saw me do a conscious swallow. That is a vagus nerve intentional stimulation. When you change from, oh no, I'm gonna drive off a cliff. Swallow. Swallowing is engaging the vagus nerve. It is engaging a relaxation response. It is switching the transmission from fight or flight into actual relaxed, engaged, creative thought. Say that happened in the past, that is not happening now. I'm safe now. My ancestors were horribly mutilated. That happened in the past. That is not happening now. That is not happening in the future. All of this is about protective energy fields so that we become conscious creators, bringing forward the seeds of reality that we wish to experience, not merely endlessly reverberating the sufferings of the past. And in the truest sense, those pooties, crapola, peanut gallery, naughtiness, fragmentary consciousnesses, those are the unresolved pain signals of previous experiences, previous art projects. And mostly when they're like, stabbing away at you, they're saying like, do something about me. Like I'm suffering, I'm in pain. So of course the solution is entropy. The solution is not a continued reverberation of their pain and a continued exacerbation of their consciousness. It is a diminishment of that. So we put traumas to rest, telling ourselves we are safe now in this moment. And also in terms of your individual life and the collective known as humanity, the planetary ecosphere, and everything that is made of light, life, and consciousness. All of the crapola that's happened up until this moment does not have to be interpolated. Remember the graph that is interpolated as we move forward into the future. into the future. I know I sing that song all the time, but we don't have to interpolate our pain into the future. We can have a portal, a moment of transformative and transferring. They're kind of the same. Moving across a boundary. That is a definition of something has happened here, but now something new is happening here. There's a measure break. I do that in my lasagna dance all the time. Dance, 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 dance. And then the time field and all the time tendrils come together. There's a measure break. And that's also like an energetic firewall. And then there is the new expansion. You saw my spine just lengthened out. The new expansion into the next paragraph or the next musical phrase or the next level of reality that we are expanding into. Totally appropriate. And this is how the soul refinery works. This is how you are able to be set free. You're set free from the harm, lessons, suffering, difficulties of the past in order to be able to move forward into something beautiful. So here's what I have written down about the Merkaba as a shield for the pineal gland. Protecting the electromagnetic emanator of ideas, ingester of energies from external sources. Hey, do you know that your pineal gland is both a sender and a receiver? You know, it is. You send out reality waves and vibrations. This is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking about ice cream or whatever is the thing that I want to manifest. I just use that as my generic example. I actually don't really eat ice cream that much. But then you also receive. You, one, are receiving. Hi, Trish, so good to see you. Received, thank you. Receiving ideas, energy, influences into your mind. And that is where you get your inspiration from. Where do I get my inspiration from? For my artwork, for my music, for the things that I'm even saying, or how I'm moving my body in each moment when I'm doing a dance. I'm receiving that from the connection to God, the creator principle, the sustainer principle, the sun, the stellar network, pure light itself. And do I have a picture like hold on a second, let me see what's up on my screen. I want to get a good picture that I can share. I know I'm squinting and scrolling, squinty, scrolly faces. This, because I want to show you this little part, get the annotation going. And there's a loud plane going outside. This little part right here, this singularity that I usually exemplify right behind your eyes, right at the top of your spine, that is a sun. Like, let's choose a nice sunny color. Emanating light rays. There is literally a sun star inside of you that is your divine connection, divine nourishment, divine healing. I talk a lot about sun gazing as connecting to, here's the sun outside of you, sending these beautiful solar rays to you. But please know and understand you also have an amazing, beautiful sun star inside of you that is radiating outward. And that a lot of these pineal gland exercises have to do with focusing your own, here's your tendril of attention, kind of focusing back in on yourself in a loop, so that you are then ingesting these ideas that emanate from within your own divine connection. Inspiration coming from the sun, but you actually are the sun. And that is everything that I teach about when I teach about what is singularity. What is the singularity? The singularity is this central convergence point, and it exists inside of me, and it also exists inside of the sun, and it exists inside of every single photon, every single atom, every single one of your physical somatic cells in the nuclei of your cells where your DNA is dancing. That's all portals. So the portals of your DNA and the shape that you're making with your DNA when you are doing your wild energetic gyrations is how you make yourself shaped like a key that can go into the frequency doorway of the lock of the cosmos so that you can enter into a higher level of reality. The mind is cultivating a seed that has the elements of reality you wish to grow. We plant a thought seed within the vibrating field. It is with God, that's the vibrating field, and this is God, the verb, God with God's self. God is God and with God's self. Language is totally inadequate to talk about this. The vibrating field is like the fertile ground of a garden. It blooms into reality. You need to protect the seed from the influence of negative and fragmented thought entities who wish to be emanated by you and your co-creative process into the future. Your own inner sun, your own emanator of consciousness and ideas, the singularity point inside of you. Drink the light from the inner sun. So in the level 1 teachings, I have a whole recorded lesson of me in my backyard 10 years ago when I lived in Woodstock, doing my sun gazing on a beautiful spring morning. And I still advocate for people to do their sun gazing, but there's a lot of distortion technology and other things that are inhibitors and false light, like literally false light illusions, false light like LED lights, lenses, all sorts of things that are distorting or inhibiting light. So what I really, first of all, I teach when you do sun gazing, don't fry your actual eyeballs by looking at the sun. I always use a hat with the brim to kind of like shade my eyes, or foliage, or a lacy kind of curtain, or something that, you know, transmits a small amount of light but does not block it out fully. Even your eyelashes will work fine, or you can do sun gazing with your physical eyes completely closed. What matters the most is that your inner eye, your tendril of attention, touches on the sun. And also you can do that once you begin to become adept. Even if it's nighttime, that means the sun is on the other side of the planet. Guess what? Your tendril of attention reaches out all the way across to where the sun is. So let's say, here's the true sun, and here's a bunch of distortive technology and lenses and caca-poo-poo and things like that that are making it difficult to go in a straight line to the sun. Don't worry about it. Jump up and over the distortions. Connect with the true sun. That is the true teaching about singularity. There is no space between you and the sun. There is no space. You have the sun inside of you. You have the sun out there. You actually don't have to go across 93 million miles flying like a rocket ship to get there. There is no space. You are bending and folding time space so that the sun and you are absolutely overlapping and coinciding. Coincidence. That's a math term, not like for a weird happening that things, you know, randomly happen. No, coincidence means when things converge, they come together, they coincide. You and the sun coincide. You are the same being. You are the same consciousness being. You are the same emanator. You are coming from different vectors in time, but you are the same thing, and you overlapping yourself. So you drink the light from the inner sun. This is a new practice. And this is also part of the empowerment practice of how are we supposed to get through this time when there are atmospheric disturbances, mechanical disturbances, light bending, transforming, dysmorphing difficulties. I'm like, humph, those difficulties are very poopy. We don't like them at all. We shouldn't have them at all. They are inhibitors to the natural flow of light that is part of our ascension experience. They are able to be transcended so that it doesn't prevent you in your own journey from being able to access all of the light, all of the love, all of the inspiration, all of the motivation, and all of the possible timelines that you need in order to level up on a quantum level or on a spiritual level or on a level of pure perception, which is what we're doing literally now, today, not next Tuesday. So that is how does, so blah, blah, blah. Flying rainbow lasagna. So star tetrahedron, wait, let me go back to a little bit more pictures because I'll get through all the pictures that are important. Then we'll move on to flying rainbow lasagna. I'm actually doing pretty good with my time. Okay, wait, we already saw this one. Put this one down. We already saw this one. This one is a line drawing over here on the left. For this one, that is the physical painting on the right. So line drawing here, physical painting here. This is a series that I did called Merkaba Chakra, and this one is number 1, and then this one is number 2, okay? So first, we're just gonna start off with number 1, where you can see in here, let's make it bigger on your screen. I know I fiddle with things sometimes, but I think it's worth it. See if I can make it bigger for you. I can. See here in the middle, there are all of these beautiful chakra shapes where there's a vortex around the top and it goes down into the center. And here's a vortex around the bottom and it goes up into the center. And then you can see how that relates to the 6-sided star tetrahedron shape. This is a major teaching of empowerment, how to make your sine waves, circular, spherical, toroidal structure integrate with the faceted, straight-edged, six-sided shape known as the Merkabah. These two things both act in conjunction. When I do a flying rainbow lasagna, I also do a Merkabah. The Merkabah is a protection of my intention, as my flying rainbow lasagna is a tool of reality morphing or transformation or creation. So the protective energy field, energy shield, blocks out or sends away the negative, unwanted experiences or timelines or realities don't sneak into my art project. And the things that come in through the vertexes here, the receptive areas where I'm wiggling my cursor, that is positive information, love-based information, everything that's love and above, divine guidance, and all the stuff that you want to come in. This acts as an immune system and organizational feature of the toroidal energy field that is a reality generation structure. And when we, can I get the annotation? Yeah. And when we begin to transform this, so wait, here is, I don't know if you can see it because it's a little bit light on your screen. It's not a good drawing, but that's where one of the vortex openings are. So you've got a vortex up there that goes down into the, man, I cannot control this pen. It goes down into the center like that. And then you have one on the bottom going up like that. You can see it. You can see those two vortexes there, hopefully on your screen. What you want to do is this singularity point, the center of both the Merkabah and the toroidal energy structure, begins to jump in this direction and jump in this direction. And that is what creates the flying rainbow lasagna energy field. I'll hold it up here and then I'll show it to you more. So we begin actually making a jumping in and out motion, kind of like that would be the orientation of things when we're creating that flying rainbow lasagna on that level. So wait, yeah, I just made a weird line. Let me show you. So this is the line drawing with no color added. It's easier to see because it's simplified. Now let's get that one to go away. Now let's look at this one, which is the finished painting, and make it a little bit bigger for you. So there's that same area highlighted, and you can see the larger red chakra vortex going down into the middle, all of the other complementary chakras going down to the middle, and how that integrates with the star tetrahedron feature. This is one apple core or hourglass shape, technically half of a chakra. Let's now go into, this is its sister painting, Merkaba Chakra Two, where you have the full chakra shape at the center. That looks like four vortexes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Four vortexes that all converge at the center, and where each one of these layers also contains all the other layers of the stretched out fabric of reality. And you also have around the edge, where I'm kind of wiggling my cursor here, 2 overlapping star tetrahedra. So you actually have double Merkabahs. When you have one chakra shape that is one, I know this is a lot, one of these, four vortex, 8-lobed chakra shapes, you have 2 layers of Merkabah. How do you create the Merkabah? I'll put this down so that we can start getting into, look at that, I'm almost at everything. Because now, this also should be down. And then I've got this one to show you. And then I've got, I think, maybe one more thing to show you. How do you create the Merkabah, Aurora? You do it by painting it with the paintbrush of your imagination, your ability to envision. So will everybody consensually go through a thought exercise with me right now? If you feel comfortable, you can either envision with your eyes open or with your eyes closed, but I want you to imagine a purple cupcake. I just saw a purple cupcake in my mind. How did you do that? How did we all make a picture of a purple cupcake inside of our mind? We painted it with the paintbrush of our imagination. So you have a pineal gland, you have an imagination reality structuring device, you also have a third eye and a tendril of attention. These are all interrelated aspects of energetic anatomy, and the capacity to envision is the capacity to create reality or create something that does not yet exist in reality and then manifest it. So first, I'm telling you to envision a purple cupcake. You actually have the capacity to manifest that cupcake into reality. There can be multiple pathways of manifestation. It's not necessarily going to show up directly on a plate in front of you, unless, of course, you envision your Merkabah, press run on that program, and then also have to go out there and actually do the physicality experience of aligning with those pathways where you would actually align with the cupcake that you have imagined with your mind. So one good early fun anecdote that I have is that I was in my Merkaba. I was 10 years ago. I lived in Woodstock. I was imagining things, and I was imagining all of these four-lobed shapes. And then I got up out of my meditation and I went for a walk through my town, and I went into the coffee shop and I literally saw this chocolate bar that is a brand name called Cho, TCHO, that has on its wrapper those very same four-lobed shapes on the wrapper. And I'm like, I just did the Merkaba. I was thinking about that chocolate bar and I manifested that chocolate bar. You know, I do this also in Bed, Bath & Beyond. This might sound silly, but that's the beyond, the beyond. There's the bed, the bath, and then the beyond. I go in there and I'm like, okay, let's find the chakra shapes because they're always there. And sometimes it's on like a toothbrush holder, a waste paper basket, a shower curtain. I always end up finding it because I know it's out there. So basically at a certain point, you recognize that you are sending out these waveforms into your day. You do these different reality structuring exercises where you are receptive and you're also in co-creative partnership and you're part of the vibrating field, and you walk around in your own creation or in your divine co-creation and you recognize, I know I'm sending these things out. So I think I also saw some reverberative, patterns and things that are manifested at TJ Maxx. Like I see them all over. I'm not advertising for these different places. I'm just telling you, like they show up in what would be considered like the most whatever mundane circumstances, but you see them everywhere. And then they are also positive feedback loops where you're like, I sent out that thing. Be open to them is what I'm trying to say. Because if I see those patterns, I'm like, let's go in. There's something in there for me. Let me go in and explore. And sometimes there's some chef's choice that is part of it too, where you're like, I didn't know that that existed, or I didn't know that I need to experience that. And I'm open to the receptivity of the cosmos. I need to talk more about flying rainbow lasagna as what this is. Let me get more into what I'm talking about here. Okay, so Vajrayana Body, wait, I think I should scroll all the way back. Flower of Life pattern as New Age artwork, often in a simplified strudel recipe without everything showing on it. I showed you my shorthand. I have a painting called The Bridge Between Squares and Hexagons. I brought this painting over here. This is not, this one is called The True Face of Christ. So first I'll hold it up so you can see it closer to the camera. And this one contains what would be called those double Merkabahs. There's two layers of star tetrahedra. So there's one that's, oriented vertically and one that is oriented horizontally, and then the smaller fractal ones, smaller fractal ones, smaller fractal ones. So this closely resembles the crystalline nature of a diamond. It closely resembles the crystalline nature of a water crystal. I call this the true face of Christ. Got it? Like the crystalline consciousness that is multifaceted across time, multidimensional, is multimorphic as opposed to merely anthropo or human morphic. All of these represent different organisms, creatures, levels of experience, parallel dimensions that are all facets of this larger consciousness. And you can also see that there's one large central feature with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these smaller snowflake or diamond shapes that are around them. And that would be analogous to if you have this chakra here, 1 with then the 6 other chakras. Got it? So you have 7 chakras total. You would have 1 central one with these other 6 ones clustered around it. So there's a lot of symbolic meaning in there. There's a lot of allegorical meaning in there. The idea of you becoming a perfectly crystalline, structured being. Time for me to drink structured water and tell you about structured water. Why do I structure my water? Why do I drink it so prevalently? You have a beautiful baby furry overlord there. I'm so happy that they're a part. That's talking to Melissa. Melissa's got a kitty cat there. They're a part of everything. Why do I so prevalently display my ingestion of my beautiful structured water? Because I always want to talk about it and encourage others to do this too. So what does it mean to structure water? Water literally is a liquid crystal that contains an enormous amount of energy. This speaks to the work of Dr. Emoto, Emoto, who was from Japan. He is no longer in this time plane. He did a lot of work with snowflake crystals and also with speaking to food, different ways of programming or influencing food and seeing which are the most nutritive substances. A bowl of rice that was spoken to with love remained uncorrupted and didn't have mold and mildew. A bowl of rice that was spoken to with hatred and revulsion, it rotted very quickly. You can do these experiments at home. Same thing with the formation of ice crystals. Speaking beautiful words into your water and then putting it in the freezer and crystallizing it, it's basically cymatics, gives birth or form to the most beautiful, complex, amazing crystalline structures. Words like love, beauty, compassion, gratitude structure the water and make beautiful, pretty snowflakes. Words like hatred, disgust, I can't even think of the words, but a lot of negative words, when they are spoken into the water, give birth to malformed crystals. And then this also speaks to music. When music is played into the water, and then it makes these crystals that are beautifully, perfectly formed and arranged, as opposed to music that is, the smashing of the keyboard with my fist. Very poorly structured crystals, okay? But you're like, but wait a minute, Aurora, water's just stupid stuff that I put it into my tummy and then I pee it out later. Dude, nonsense. No. Water comes inside of your body and actually gives structure to your body. Now, I have to say that you have cellular membranes that are those spheres that are the original, geometric progression of cells within your body. Your spheres of your cellular membranes are made out of lipids. They're fats, and water and fats don't mix. You guys know this from salad dressing. Vinegar and oil do not mix. They separate out, right? So in your body, you have a distinction between the fatty lipids, the membranes that hold your cells together in little spheres, and the actual water that's inside of and outside of your little fatty spheres. And that's called intracellular fluid and extracellular fluid. And both of these intra and extracellular fluids are made out of lots and lots of water. And it's actually the structure of the water that gives structural integrity to the fatty spheres. The fats themselves are just they're like jelly. They don't have tensile strength. They actually don't have structural integrity. It's the water that you drink that gives structural integrity to your cellular structure. You want to have perfectly formed, healthy spheres, and you want them to be clustered together in these perfect matrices, positive matrices, not neo matrix of imprisonment, like the movie The Matrix, positive crystalline structures of clusters of spheres that lead to health and vitality, and literally a light body that contains and transmits more light. I went through this teaching today, the difference between coal, graphite, and diamond. Your physical cellular structure is cultivated and transformed and metamorphosed into your diamond light body through your own personal willpower, self-cultivation, and positive and intentional ingestion of substances and frequencies to organize the cellular matter differently. Not by slapping yourself in the face. That's just for emphasis. But to reorganize what you already have. You don't lose puzzle pieces. You don't be like, I get rid of you, you're out the window. No, just like the change between a lump of coal, and a diamond has to do with reorganizing the molecules, not throwing things out the window. So you take the aspects of who you are and rearrange them until they are in a state of divine perfection. Then you are shaped differently. So you are like a key and a lock, and you can go through the frequency door. And then what's on the other side of the frequency door? A new experience. Flying rainbow lasagna as a portal of consciousness, as a frequency door. How do you structure water? First I'll finish up with the mechanics of that, then flying rainbow lasagna as a frequency door. What you do is, first, you take water and filter it and make sure that it is free of impurities. So for my tap water, which contains chlorine and fluoride and other stuff that we do not necessarily like in the city water, I filter it through, one of these filters that is effective at removing all of those chemicals and solids and undesirables so that it is as pure as it can possibly be. Then what I do is I put it into various containers. I'll get one of them and I'll show it to you. So actually first I pour my water through this, which I love, which is called the Waterfall. And this comes from Dancing with Water. And they are beautiful people and a positive company and a positive website. And I think if you're gonna get water structuring stuff, they're really great and I love them. And they made this beautiful charging plate for me too, that I think was a beautiful gift. This has crystals inside of it, and it is made out of a bioceramic crystal itself. The vibrations affect the water. And then I have this, you can see there's no square edges in this. I like containers that have no square edges for structuring my water. I take my filtered water and I pour it through the waterfall. Aurora, why do you do this? This mimics the action that in nature, water would be coming from a spring and it would go bubbling over a brook. And as it bubbles, it giggles. You need to giggle your water, because the water that we get from the sink, it's coming through all these straight pipes. Humans don't yet know about how to structure water properly. So when you get the water, you know what it's like? Here's a thumb drive. That's like, you know, before we put any information into this thumb drive, we're gonna have to reformat it because it came to us with a bunch of nonsense on it. So when you get your water, it's like a liquid crystal that can hold all this information, but it's got a bunch of nonsense on there and stuff that you don't want. So you need to clear it out. So what you do is first, you're gonna giggle that water and put some positive, happy, joyful energy into it. And as I'm pouring the water over my little waterfall giggler, I think happy, positive thoughts. I'm in gratitude. Dr. Emoto. I say to my water or think to my water, I am so happy and so blessed. I'm so happy and so blessed to be alive. Thank you, God, for this opportunity. Thank you for this resource. You can say, I put positive intentions into this water, like healing for my body or my skin or my ankle or my kidney or whatever you want. And then after I do that, I pour the liquid into this container. And again, I love this. This one is made by a company that is called Aladdin Carafes. And it does have Flower of Life stenciled on the bottom, but I know it's not perfect with the shapes moving in the upward direction too, but that's okay because I add them with my mind, all right? So we have positive inscriptions, and then I put it on my charging plate, which has my artwork on it. It's just there in the kitchen. You can put it on a picture of something you want to imprint upon. Get it? Water takes on an imprint, an informational imprint of what it is around. Big. Put positive things around your water and then drink that water. So that can be put it on a picture of vitality, a picture of something that is meaningful, a picture of something that is positive. It literally is imprinting the water with that. This is one of these finely calibrated vessels that has this Fibonacci sequence. Fibonacci sequence is a mathematical sequence that represents growth patterns based on the square root of 2. And that represents everything from the center of a sunflower, a nautilus chamber, and even your own body, like the size of your side tooth to your front tooth, or the size of your first fingertip area to your middle fingertip area, or the length of your shin bone to the length of your thigh. These are all 1 to 1.68. It's Phi, the sacred constant. Phi comes from Phidias. This was the architect that designed Parthenon in ancient Greece. Phidias knew how to use this 1 to 1.618 basic harmonic proportion of nature in architecture to make things look beautiful and also stand up for a very long amount of time. Buildings stand for a long amount of time when you build them in the right way. Water and other things and your body, when you influence them in these, it makes your sacred architecture stay viable for a very long amount of time. Got it? So I wanted to show you, I have this beautiful container that I put it in, and then I let it sit overnight. Why do you let it sit overnight? And I also add one more thing to this that is really possible, really good. And this is like the most affordable and most profound thing you can do with restructuring your water. Crystal energy. These are crystal energy drops. It's a bottle that looks like this. If you want to find them, crystal energy, and then you want to research Patrick Flanagan. He is not on Earth anymore. Flanagan. He did tons of research into the surface tension of water. When you have a dewdrop or a droplet of water, it has surface tension, a thickening of the membrane called the meniscus, that again, oil and water don't mix. The fatty coatings that are your cell membranes don't mix with the water that you drink. So this comes down to Aurora, like water's just stupid stuff and it comes into me and then it comes out as pee-pee. No, water comes into you and then it bathes the outside of all of these cell membranes and mostly just travels through our digestive tract, through our kidneys, through our bloodstream, and then passes out. But if you change the surface tension of water, water actually penetrates through the cell membrane, it becomes wetter or has less surface tension. It is able to more easily enter into the cell and take out cellular metabolites, the garbage or the trash that's made as an end result of cellular metabolism that you want to move out of the interior aspect of your cells so that your intracellular fluid stays clear. So in your body, you want your intracellular fluid areas inside of your cells to be nice and clear and clean, and then have the areas outside of your cells to be moving metabolites out. And this is called the detoxification process or metabolism. And that all that stuff moves out through your breath, your skin, transpiration, through peeing and pooping, and all the other ways that we excrete in our body. Positive stuff, you want that to happen. So the aspect is of rehydrating the intracellular aspects of your body more effectively so that metabolites can move out so that you can be more of a clear crystal, so that you can transmit more light. At a certain point, I stopped drinking out of my shungite cup because I had ingested enough shungite, and shungite is a wonderful EMF protected substance. So I was drinking out of this from like 2017 when I moved to Southern California, and I'm like, Wi-Fi is everywhere, I need to protect myself. And then at a certain point, I felt like I had ingested enough of that. My body told me that. And then all I wanted to do was to ingest my perfectly clear, structured water. And I like to use, can you hear it? It's a real crystal. I like to drink out of a real crystal glass, and that it's not, there's nothing wrong with regular glasses or a ceramic mug or something like that. But I really, really like to put the water into this. I like that it is also shaped not with a square bottom, but just with these beautiful rounded curves. And I sometimes put my water in the actual sun, put actual sunlight into my actual water, and then drink the water that is charged and loaded with sunlight. Why do I put it into these containers overnight? Because water has what is known as microcurrents. Let me grab another thing that I've got that I also really love. This one is also from Dancing with Water, and it's a bioceramic egg, all right? Egg is one of these sacred symbols, sacred shapes. When you put water inside of here, the water doesn't just sit there. Like, I'm dumb, stupid water, I just sit here. It goes inside of there and it is affected by neutrinos, the sun, tiny air currents, tiny little fluid motions happen all throughout there. And you can put this underneath a tree, and the biofield of the tree will affect the water that is in your jug. Put it next to something beautiful. Don't put it next to your Wi-Fi router. Get it, guys? So you put your water in here overnight and you let it sit, and all of these tiny cosmic microcurrents program your water with health and vitality. Then you can pour it into a jug or something that's less fragile. This is a bit fragile, so you have to put it someplace where the children and the cat and the dog will not knock it over. But this is an amazing tool. And also, when you use one that's opaque like this, you have to be certain to wash it inside so that it doesn't grow like algae, bacteria, et cetera, et cetera. So you can use an ozoner in order to clear that out, or a bottle brush, and you just make sure to clean it out effectively. But these are also beautiful, long-lasting things. Like, this is why I'm an advocate. Let's say I'm an advocate and an encourager. It's from Dancing with Water, that you can use this for your whole entire lifetime, and that this is a shungite sphere. You don't have to get it, but it fits on top of here perfectly. And then this energy is affecting the water that's in here. So it is programming, it's talking to the water. Talk to your water. That's the way I'm trying to understand it. Water receives blessings. Water transmits blessings. Some of the most amazing water I've ever had, and what I'm continually trying to recreate in my San Diego urban environment, is the water from Mount Shasta. So if you guys ever have the chance to go to Mount Shasta, if you're driving through, or if you go camping there are some natural springs, and even just the fountain that is in the center of town. Fill up your water jugs. We would go up there with like big giant water jugs, and my friend with a van, and then just fill up as many water jugs as we can and bring it home, because that water does this naturally. It bubbles over a giggling brook. It sits in an inner cistern. This pretends it is like a cistern. A cistern is a stone chamber that holds water underground. And when you put water in a cistern with the C underground, the earth energies affect the microcurrents of the water. Earth is talking to your water. And then when you drink the water, the earth information comes inside of you, and it structures your fatty tissues and makes you into a crystalline being. And you're in this beautiful partnership with your environment. So I'm big on structuring my water, and it's basically using your water with intention. And when you do that, you prepare your water just like you prepare your food every day. And then I encourage people to bring their water with them, so that when you go out or wherever you're going, you know you've got your nice little canteen full of water that doesn't have fluoride or any adulterants or anything like that in it, and you have put your blessings and positivity into your water. Let me put this back where it's safe, where it won't get knocked over. So anyway, Dancing with Water, check it out. And again, I'll show you the charging plate. This is not on their website, but it's just a beautiful gift. Hold on. So if you guys know what organite is, this is like a plate of organite. It's a resin that has all these different metallic sprinkles inside of it. And then they put one of my paintings in there, like as a painting, as a element inside of the resin. So I put my jug on top of this. So I'm charging it up with orgone energy, and also with the intentions in my artwork and my creativity. And I'm telling you, like, I find my water is very creative when I drink it. It improves my creative process. Let me put this where it's safe, where none of this stuff will get knocked over that I can. Okay. So water as a huge tool in our inner development, making the water intelligently charged and intelligently structured and more hydrating to the body to be able to better release cellular metabolites. Now onward to Flying Rainbow Lasagna as a portal. When you vibrate the chakra structure up and down, in and out in higher dimensional reality, what you're doing is making this vertex and this vertex, which is the singularity, jump up and down. It creates a portal. How is this a portal? Like, I have to show it to you. In here, you can see the red area is connected. My red pen is touching my red pen, but the orange area is not connected. If I'm a little ant walking on the orange area, I get to the edge, and then what happens? Do I fall off into the Grand Canyon? No. Do I fly across? No. What happens is I go through a dimensional portal. Right there is a dimensional portal, and I jump through time, space, and the continuum, and I end up on this edge down here. Can you see? In there, I jump across that space, and then I travel across this inner edge here, and then I get to the edge. I do not fall into the Grand Canyon. I then jump up over to here. So all of this area here, this negative space where there's no connection between these edges, that's a higher dimension. It's a higher dimensional space. Every one of these edges here where there is not a connection represents a dimensional portal. In order for energy to flow around this shape, the energy goes across this surface, reaches this area here, and then it seamlessly integrates with this area down here. So my pen just moved, boom, my pen just moved, but you did not actually sprout wings and fly. What happens is you went through a dimensional portal. This violet shape, this violet dot that's jumping up and down, up and down, up and down, what it is doing, it is going through a dimensional doorway. So it actually does not traverse all the way across this as a straight line. It blips out of reality up here and blipped back into reality down here. Aurora, how does this happen? What is this like? So let's say that you work in a restaurant, and there's one of those like swinging doors that goes into and out of the kitchen, into and out of the kitchen, into and out of the kitchen. When you are in the kitchen, you come out through the door and you find yourself right at the table. Boom, I put down your lasagna. Then I don't have to walk all the way across a whole big giant crowded restaurant, I turn right back around and I go back through that doorway, through that portal, and I go back into the kitchen, all right? Or it is like the Homer Simpson episode, I talked about this before already, where he goes to the garage sale of the Dr. Scientist and he buys a discount rate portal machine. It's got two portals. And he puts one in front of him on the couch and he puts one right in front of the refrigerator. And then all he has to do is stick his hand into the portal machine in front of the couch and it comes out by the refrigerator and he grabs the beer and then he comes right back to where he is in front of the TV. So it is a way of bending and folding time space so that you don't have to traverse linear space in order to access another area of reality. With the flying rainbow lasagna shape, you have this shape up here that goes instantaneously to this shape down here. Hold it so you can see. This person over here jumps spontaneously down to this spot over here, does not go across however many, 5 inches of space, does not go into where my fingers are wiggling. Nothing goes there, but something goes there. It's a higher dimensional space that is created by the jumping movement of this from here to here. So there is an interdimensional doorway that connects this space to this space. And you go through that doorway. It is a portal. All of this is the type of portal that you go through by using a restructuring or metamorphose technique of your consciousness to be able to go not from point A to point B in a linear sense, but through folding time, space, and consciousness. Now we go back to the beginning of this teaching. I'm bending this teaching all the way around back to the beginning to the Renaissance. In the Renaissance, everybody had to be taught, don't look at the world like it's a flat object. Look at the world like it's a screen, a window that you can look through. In order to do these going through portal maneuvers for yourself, to restructure your body on a cellular level, to be the key that fits in the lock, to be able to go, I'm walking or driving, and I go through a frequency door, and I end up on the other side in a new reality. How do you do it? Retraining your perception. Through looking at the world in a different way. Retrain your perception. The difference between looking at something like a flat hexagon or looking at it like it is a cube that has depth is the difference between how you are interpreting the raw data that is coming to you. This has everything to do with the raw data of, let's say, the 5th dimension and higher. For anyone who is new here, when I talk about the 5th dimension, I'm not talking about the modern lexicon in the New Age world of the ladder of ascendancy that includes terms such as 3rd density, 4th density, 5th density. I find that to be very confusing and rather contradictory to what I know in my experience of true ascension, that I'm talking about the 5th dimension. We can all sing that song now from the 5th dimension called The Age of Aquarius if you want to. Okay, or sing it in your head. Okay, Age of Aquarius. 5th dimension. What is the 5th dimension? It is the reality bakery within which the 4th dimensional French breads of timelines are baked. It is a sea of uncollapsed waveforms. It is not a place where you will see me with a face. You will not see stuff that looks like a building. You will see the potentials for buildings. You will not see a wall with plaster on it. You will see the potentials of reality creation materials, the recipe, the water, bread, and yeast and flavorings that go into making things at the bakery of reality. Not even dough, just like unformed batter. And then the process of collapsing those potential waveforms of the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th dimensions. Those have to do with the ovens in front of your eyes, which are the ovens of observership, baking that batter into a solidified object as you perceive it. Looking at all these sea of waveforms, it's waving around. I'm swimming around in a sea of waveforms. And then my eyes, my ovens of observership, bake these batters into, cookies, cakes, French breads that are then actual experiences that actually do have 3rd dimensional houses, purple cupcakes, people, Mount Shasta, everything in it that you can possibly experience. And then you can choose which timeline you are actually upon. So to be in a perception level of the 5th dimension or higher means to be perceiving the raw materials of what reality can be before it is even collapsed into experienced reality. The fifth dimension is where the bread of the fourth dimension is baked. The fifth dimension also contains many multiple layers of the time tapestry. This is big. And the sixth dimension is understanding how things have changed over time. So it's like saying we have a potential for reality. It's term paper. It's one edit. But then as soon as I change even a comma or a period in that level of reality, everything changes. So every single edit, here's the fifth dimension, but here's another version. Boom, another version, boom, another version, boom. That's the sixth dimension. And then you have many, many units of those time possibilities of layered tapestry, layers of time tapestry in units strung together in sequence, I should say. That is what the sixth dimension is. And then those sequences turned into many multiple parallel timelines is what the seventh dimension is. And then those many multiple time weavings is what the eighth dimension is. And this is very similar to the process of supercoiling in your DNA, where you start off with one simple waveform that is a line and twist it in upon itself, and then twist it upon itself again, and twist it upon itself again. And this continual folding into greater and greater levels of complexity that technically can be infinite, but we're just going to talk about the 0th dimension, the point of total potentiality, into, let's say, the 10th dimension and the levels of complexity and interfolding that can happen. But truly, it is an infinite journey of complexity. So yes, what you're looking at are the multiple versions of reality, the multiple edits of reality, the multiple ways that things are constantly folding, changing, and shifting. And that relates a lot to flying rainbow lasagna as a time object that bends, folds, shapes, and reforms time. And it is your perception that is bending, folding, shaping, and reforming time. Your perception, like the difference between how you are interpreting a hexagon, or are you interpreting it as a cube? When you begin to experience multidimensional perception, you might look at the same tip of the iceberg, evidenced mundane events in consensual collective reality. And also you are looking at the time tapestry, embroidery, the other side, the connected threads of how all of these things are connected together. And when you have the higher dimensional perspective, you see not only that tangle of threads, that causality structure. The threads are causality structures. Like this pink thread connects to this green thread, and then here's a knot where they tie together. That's a causality structure. And it's like saying that I got ice cream because that guy milked a cow over there and then made the ice cream for me over here, or whatever is the domino effect of causality structure. And then you start to see the interwoven multiple complexities of, like, he milked the cow at 4 a.m., he milked the cow at 5 a.m., he milked the cow at 6 a.m., all these different versions of milk that went into all these different versions of ice cream, or the truck left at 6:01 a.m., or it got turned into vanilla ice cream, or it got turned into chocolate ice cream. It layers, staggering, insurmountable layers of complexity. When you begin to look at the world in that way, you really do see the cosmos as an enormous, for lack of a better word, supercomputer with an amazing, impressive amount of RAM, or processing power. The capacity to uphold and sustain all of those spinning plates. You know, like that old Ed Sullivan show, the guy's going to spin plates on little tiny poles and keep them all going at the same time, or whatever concurrent events, concurrent levels of organization and processing power. Is staggering, is levels of intelligence, is proof of divinity. It's more complex than a human created AI, or not even human created, than an artificially created or technologically arising AI system or pseudo intelligence can possibly keep going. And that, think about the levels of complexity when you talk about your own life and all the different layers and levels of reality and possibilities. And did you eat ice cream at 6:01 or at 6:02 or at 6:03? And when was the cow milked? And when was the ice cream churned? When was the butter churned? When did it go on your toast? And now think about that level of complexity is also being translated to every single microbe in the compost pile. One little square foot of compost has trillions of active microbes, all of these things that are little tiny alive one-celled organisms, all of which are metabolizing, all of which are moving through life, all of which are moving through time, all of which have their own multiple screenplay edits change a comma, new layer of reality, change a comma. Time toaster, press the time toaster, new layer of reality, press the time toaster, Homer Simpson's time toaster, new layer of reality, new layer of reality, 10 million different layers of reality for one microbe eating in a compost. And there's trillions of layers of microbes in a compost, and that's just in one garden, in one layer of reality. The processing power to sustain all of that is beyond most levels of comprehension or human imagination. And it is, again, divinity. It is yourself as a divine presence working on an enormously grand scale in complexity. So your small human brain, your fatty idea catcher, is just a bit too small. It's like asking, where's my cell phone? It's like asking a computer that's the size of my cell phone to do some kind of massive, like incredibly long calculation involving whatever, like 10,000 petalops of processing power. Your phone is like, I have 10 megabytes of memory. Like, I can't do that. So that is what it's like. There's no offense to yourself at all. Please be in radical self-love and self-forgiveness and compassion, because you're like, I have this many neurons and I have this much capacity to process. And that is why I have this perspective and I have this amount of perception and ability to conceive in my life. However, I will tell you that you can do like what I do is I use the cloud, the stars, the entire stellar network as my externalized brain sense of self neurology. And I do that by expanding and dilating my identity through changing my definition of the singularity, because the singularity that's inside of me is the same singularity that's inside of the sun. And the sun has an enormous amount of processing power. Every star in the sky has an enormous amount of processing power. Every single photon has an enormous amount of processing power. And when you truly identify as I am light, I am a coherent light being. I am made of light. All light everywhere is me. Light self is me self, is God self. Then you have access to all of this greater level of perception and calculation. And also then your motivations and sense of self-renewal and self-cultivation also dilates and expands, because you're like, I want to take care of totality self. I'm like, I don't want to do like, this is good for my elbow, but bad for my knee. Like, no, I want to do what is good for my holistic self-presence. So then you begin to make your motivations and actions and everything that you do in your life motivated upon what is best for the entirety of all life, all light, all consciousness, all time, everywhere. Boom. I want to just flow through and make sure that I got all of the important things of my notes. I think that I did. Hold on, I don't want to fly over anything important. Okay, this is something I wanted to say. The allegory of what is a cube and what is a tesseract. So what cube is to tesseract? A tesseract is a hypercube. This is a mathematical idea. It's not something that I invented. You can look it up and look at what it looks like. It looks kind of like a box constantly unfolding. It's kind of like what the mathematical animation of it is, but it's also the sense of like a cube or a box that moves over time. So a regular cube is just one cube. We're familiar with them. They look like a cube and it just sits there in time for 1 minute. But a hypercube would be a cube that occupies many different places and structures in time, which is the fourth dimension, which is the French bread of time. What cube is to tesseract, torus is to flying rainbow lasagna. So you take a cube and you put it into a higher dimension, you get a tesseract. You take a torus, you put it in a higher dimension, get flying rainbow lasagna. Flying rainbow lasagna is the equivalent of a higher dimensional torus, moving the singularity up and down within the context of a universe. So I usually say the word cosmos. Cosmos means a whole array of dimensions, every dimension, every layer of time tapestry. But in this case, I'm just talking about one universe. Move one torus in one layer of reality known as the universe within a context, and you end up with this flying rainbow lasagna shape. The extra dimension is achieved by adding another dimension mentally, with perception, a mental form of travel. Why am I so motivated to give you this teaching today? It's time to go through the frequency door. Yes, like do it now. And that means exit an old, outdated level of reality and move into a new reality structure. That it is like moving into a new niche, a new container for your consciousness. And that's literally what we're doing as individuals and as a planetary collective right now. It is not travel from point A to point B. It is travel to new realities, new possibilities, new levels of perception and experience. So, you might be like, I just went through a portal. Well, look, like the wall looks the same. Aurora, I'm disappointed at this portal. The wall looks the same. The floor looks the same. The this looks the this. Don't be prematurely disappointed or throw your experience out the window, because you now have left the old reality and you embrace new levels of perception where you can see and know and sense more. New levels of empowerment where you can do more within that context, new possibilities to experience. So in the old story, when I was in meditation and I made my Merkabah, I was thinking of that chocolate bar and I opened my eyes, my apartment looked the same, but I didn't really notice and was not able to perceive, Chiki's getting excited, the changes in reality until I went to the coffee shop and then I found something new. Hold on a second. Let me just pause the recording for a recording. New opportunities become possible. So you must, just like with adding the new layer of perception of looking at a flat hexagon as a cube, you know that you're adding that additional layer of dimension, adding that additional degree of freedom, being able to jump off the surface of time and experience time non-linearly. New things will happen. Definitely look for them and be open to them and receptive to them. The seemingly empty space within the lasagna shape is the higher dimensional space where I'm wiggling my finger. I explained the edge. How does this allow us to travel mentally in the same way that the Merkaba does? The Merkaba as a shield for the pineal gland. Okay, so that what you are doing is folding time and space into new configurations, folding your DNA into new configurations, and making possible new combinations of reality that would not have been possible otherwise. Not getting rid of anything. The theme of this teaching, and now I'm going to get to all of your beautiful questions, is that for the Vajrayana body, you don't have to throw everything out the window. You use the same molecules of carbon, change the arrangement of your body. You're not throwing away time or anything like that. You are changing the arrangement of time. You are not amputating anything or having to add new stuff in any way. You're rearranging the elements of what you already have. So now going back, Melissa, welcome back. I know she says she wasn't here for a little while. She's back in class. She says number 8 was definitely part of my adventure. I helped my cat recently deliver 8 kittens. How exciting. That's one of the little baby kittens that you've been holding in your lap during today. That's so awesome. She says, during these current times, are we now or when will we be experiencing peripheral versions of everyone else because all ascension lines ascend alone? Really good question. Or is it all a little bit different now that FRL is here equals new possibilities? Beautiful question. You're really accurate. Great thinking on that. So when you have the time vortex down here and we are essentially writing our course until we are going up the central core timeline, what really happens is you're creating radial spokes that all coincide kind of in the shape of a dandelion seed head. And at a certain point, when you create that perfect spherical dandelion seed head with all of these radial spokes converging at the middle, your personal timeline diverges from everybody else. That is absolutely apt and truthful. So it means that you will, each one of us inevitably contains the ascension timeline for our own personal experience. And inevitably in that last moment, you will break away from everyone else as they are achieving their perfect trajectory. So you might be like, okay, like we're overlapping, but now see ya, like we're not overlapping anymore. And also know that that can happen at the very last moment, right before, oh, cheeky, cool it, hold on. As all of those denouements, a denouement is a culmination of a movie or a narrative structure. As all of those final denouements come together and all of that ascension timeline becomes perfectly arrayed, each person's individual life journey of ascension coincides with the singularity, but from its own unique vector. No two people have the same identical time paths. You all have a different time pathway. It's your soul journey. Every single soul has a unique journey, including every single dog and every single microbe. So the levels of complexity are intense, and everything creates this perfect loop where it also returns back to the beginning, but there is an inevitable separation from every other life as that culmination moment is experiencing. So I won't make a prediction about what exactly it will feel like. Will it feel like, is everything else going to die and I'm the last person alive on earth? Like, I don't think it's going to be like that, because I don't envision any of this as being a death or going through the doorway that way. I envision it all as a journey of consciousness. Like when you come out of your Merkabah or you come out of a dimensional portal and you're like, I'm on the other side. Ascension is very similar. When you go through the frequency portal, you are on the other side. You're in a new level of reality, but your journey doesn't end. You're at infinity. You're on the endless journey, going and going and going. You never stop. So it's like you go through a portal and then more road is ahead of you. I'm driving. There's a portal that I go through, and on the other side is not falling off the Grand Canyon. Like I was saying here, you don't fall off the Grand Canyon. When you get to that portal edge, what happens is you seamlessly integrate with what is happening at this opening of the portal, even though you have gone across negative space. So it's a really, really good question. I will also say, let's be open and receptive to the cosmos to be able to receive what is happening in terms of the garden of reality sprouting. Let's see what it's actually going to see and feel like, because we are in uncharted territory, having a completely new and undefined experience of this planetary ascension and also galactic ascension and microbial and microscale ascension, all of these things happening at the same time. It is very profound. So we will have to also be open to what is happening. Trisha says, Aurora, what about playing water, a song on a loop? I play music to my water all the time. So I put speakers next to it. I put positive music into it. I put my own music into it. Yes, yes, yes. I encourage you to play positive stuff. Like, no offense to heavy metal, but don't play Metallica into your music, because all of that stuff is going to get in. All of the screaming rage and angst is going to go into music. Please play some beautiful, peaceful, well-structured music into your water. And Trisha also asks, where can we get one of those, please? Also only sold on Easter. You're asking about the egg, the ceramic egg. So I highly recommend go to the website called Dancing with Water. They have a really good book. Also, the book is like, worth owning, worth reading or sharing with others, all about the concepts behind structuring water. Usually I was able to find the crystalline energy drops on their website, but they don't always have it in stock. So there's a really good book there called Dancing with Water. That's where you can also find the egg, and the egg comes with separate little things that you can put on the top, little bases that you can put around the bottom. The egg is really wonderful. And then they have other water vortexing stuff, but I like ones that are made of glass or ceramic, not plastic. And I like ones that don't have a motor and that last for forever. And that really literally just are about the microcosmic currents of the world. So if those are the only two questions, if there's any more questions or comments, I certainly will open it, but otherwise I'll end the recording for now because I'm doing all this on the hotspot on my phone. So it kind of is adding up a little bit. So if there's anything else, then I'm open to listening or talking. And if not, then I will just say thank you for right now. Okay, I'm going to end the recording for right now.